What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back to yet another album review courtesy of Levi, a.k.a. ThrashManiac99. Yeah, we're nearing the end of an era, so to speak, of album reviews on this channel. Just a quick reminder for those who didn't watch the major announcements video I posted a few days ago. I'm going to be moving the album reviews over to the Shadow Cult YouTube channel, and it's going to be more than just me doing the reviews. We're going to have most of the metalheads within the Shadow Cult doing reviews on their own free will. Myself, Mr. Scott Reacts, Chronics from the Most Extreme Wrestling, Kamikaze Games, and maybe a couple others. We'll see how everything goes. So yeah, this is the first of the final 3 reviews happening on this channel. And it's a big one of my favorite death metal bands of all time. We are of course talking about Cannibal Corpse. I don't really feel like I need to go into the history of this band, but I guess for some of you guys who don't know, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the history of Cannibal Corpse. So the history of Cannibal Corpse begins back in the 1980s when there were 3 different Buffalo, New York bands at the time: Tyrant Sin, Leviathan, and Beyond Death. Chris Barnes and Paul Mazurkowitz Bob Rousey were in Tyrant Sin, Chris Barnes was in Leviathan, Jacko and Alex Webster were in Beyond Death. After those bands broke up, Chris, Paul, Bob, Jack, and Alex came together to form a super band and called it Cannibal Corpse in 1988. Releasing their first demo, they get to do an opening gig for Dark Angel and then open for many other bands in the Buffalo area for local shows with bands like Creator, Coroner, Death, The Accused, Blood Feast, among so many other bands. Then they get signed to Metal Blade Records in July of 1989, and then they record their first album, Eden Back to Life, in 1990, which was definitely a little more of a thrashy death metal album. Then afterwards, with Butchered at Birth through to The Bleeding, they pretty much perfected what brutal death metal is all about. It is pummeling, it is aggressive, it is heavy, beyond repair. After The Bleeding, Chris Barnes would be out of the band, and in come in George Corpse Grinder Fisher, who came out of the band Monstrosity, and from their album Vile onward, they seem to be going through a few different sound shifts, where you hear them go into traditional death metal, you would hear them go into thrashy death metal, some technical stuff, and some groove-oriented stuff, and it all is arriving on this album, Violence Unimagined, the newest album from Cannibal Corpse, and they are still going strong after all these years. So, what does this album have to offer? Well, for one thing, this is the first album since Vile to not feature Pat O'Brien on guitar because of some legal problems he ran into a few years ago, and the band couldn't wait for him any longer, so they picked up former Morbid Angel guitarist and current guitarist and vocalist of Hate Eternal, Eric Rutan, who'd been a longtime friend of the band and a longtime producer of the band going back to the album Kill in 2006, 15 years ago. So he's now in the band as lead guitarist, going hand in hand with guitarist Rob Barrett. So what does Eric have to offer within the music? Well, we're getting a little bit more diverse songwriting, so to speak, and we're going to go through track by track, quick synopsises, if that's even a word, to describe these songs. So we kick things off with the song Murderous Rampage, which was a fast and furious way to kick off the album. There's some catchy thrash riffs that remind me of bands like Slayer, and wild, chaotic solos courtesy of Barrett and Rutan that remind you of the days of Kerry King and Jeff Hanneman. Neurogenic's Resurrection kind of continues the style that Murderous Rampage began with, and that's that more thrashy death metal, but you do get a groovy and catchy breakdown in the middle, followed by even more chaotic guitar soloing. Inhumane Harvest, which was the first single of the album, starts off with some technical riffing that leads into some catchy standard death metal riffing. You get the first instances of blast beats with this song, whereas the first 2 songs you didn't get any blast beats, but on Inhumane Harvest you do get some blast beats. We also get a trademark brutal death metal breakdown with a little bit more of a melodic solo, and Cannibal Corpse doesn't really get into melody all that much. After all, they're a brutal band, and brutal bands typically don't have melodic solos, but we get a slightly melodic solo on this track, which showcases the influence that Eric Rutan really has on this album. The following track, Condemnation Contagion, starting off with a lot of pinch harmonic riffing at the beginning of the song, followed by what people call the cannibal groove, where you get some groovy, catchy songwriting going forward, and it flows throughout this song quite well. Towards the middle, we begin to hear some technical tremolo riffing before we get back to the cannibal groove. Surround, Kill, Devour, maybe the most catchy song of the album. There are some memorable riffs and a memorable chorus. Ritual Annihilation, which is one of my personal favorite songs off the album. Arguably the most technical song on the album, as the beginning of it kind of reminded me of bands like Decapitated, for example. And after some catchy blasting, we get some more technicality going off the walls insane. Towards the end, more of the cannibal groove. So this song had a lot going for it. Follow the Blood. I have to point this out because of the riff and how it starts. I couldn't help but say, Chris Benoit is here, and he's really mad. Chris Benoit is here, and he's really angry. Because of the way the riff goes, it just made me think of that moment from WWF/WWE history. But after that, more of the cannibal groove. This is the song where Alex Webster's bass has the most moments. You can definitely hear what he's going for with this track. Some more technical thrashy parts come in before we get a short, quick breakdown. Then we get some more technicality coming along. And another melodic solo. I mean, this might be the most melodic Cannibal Corpse album, which so far it's only 2 solos that have that veneer to it. But then that song is followed by Bound and Burned, which you want to talk about having a lot going. You know, it starts off with moments that remind me of the album The Bleeding. It's quite groovy, then it gets thrashy and technical, and the blast beats. Ooh, Paul Mazurkowitz still can blast just as hard or harder than most young death metal drummers. And I'm going to go ahead and say it, Bound and Burned, probably my favorite song of the album. Slowly Sawn is perhaps the most groovy song of the album. However, this was maybe the one weak point of the album. It's not a bad song, it's a good song, but it just doesn't quite hold up to the remainder of the album. But the solo is quite impressive, and it does save this song from being considered a total filler song. Over Torture, which is the shortest song of the album at 2.5 minutes. I would compare this song to something like Frantic Disembowelment from The Wretched Spawn. It's super technical, so fast, it just pummels you throughout the entire 2.5 minute song. If the duck would shut up. And then we get to the closing song of the album, Cerements of the Flayed. Starts off quite slammy, kind of like a slam death metal intro, which is not something typical of Cannibal Corpse, but after that, we get some of the more faster, thrashy technicality coming in, followed up by more groove, then more technicality. The best way I could describe this song is that it's basically like the best train wreck ever, in the sense of how it goes in every direction imaginable, but maintaining great hooks, technique, and fluidity. And I felt it was a great way to close out this monster of an album. So overall, despite Slowly Sawn being perhaps the weakest song of the album, even though it's still a good song, the entire album's fucking amazing. It is a strong effort from one of the legends in death metal. The production is quite full. Every instrument and vocal pattern shines through. Top-notch guitar work, prominent bass, drums quite groovy, and the lyrics are brutal as they should be. So, it might be Stockholm Syndrome for my love of Cannibal Corpse, but I'm going to give this a 9.5 out of 10. I think this is Cannibal's best album since Kill. which that's saying something because Kill is an amazing album. But this is just, of course, my opinion. Not everybody's going to agree with it, but I think this is one of the best Cannibal albums in quite some time. And Eric Rutan showcasing his influence all across this album. I look forward to hearing what this band has in store next time, that is, if Eric was still going to be in the band by that point. So what do you guys think of Violence Unimagined by Cannibal Corpse? Let me know in the comments below. 2 more reviews left in this channel's history coming up. Gojira and this monster, Evil Hell Unleashed. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching this review of Violence Unimagined by Cannibal Corpse. Until next time, horns high, I will see you soon.
Right underneath you. You're just gonna have to run around for a second while I... Oh. Okay.
Why is there so much... Oh god, there's a horde of spiders.
You were slain by spiders, man. I'm not a secret island.
You're just on an island paradise while we're over here fighting for our lives.
We're at the same coordinates I was at
so many
before.
sounds out
Just
there.
killed a zombie by
Okay,
myself.
I'm here. Oh my god!
They were multiplying!
There's so many! What the fuck?
There's so many zombies! What is this? I don't think I've ever seen that many zombies in a group.
I don't want to be out here
ever in my
anymore. I've
life.
decided.
I've
I don't want to be here. Okay, never mind. I'm not heroic, as it turns out.